Title: When We Weren't Ready, Part 1. She had only just stepped into the world of college, fresh notebooks, nervous smiles, and that endless excitement of starting something new. The orientation hall was packed with new students like her, their eyes wide, voices excited. But hers paused, her breath catching for just a moment, as she saw someone step onto the stage. A boy, tall, confident, with a spark in his eyes, was performing a skit that had the crowd roaring with laughter. But to her, everything slowed down. She didn't hear the lines. She didn't laugh like the others. She just stared. There was something about him. He looked like one of them, a new student. Someone she might see in her next class. Someone she might get to know. It wasn't until a week later, during a trekking activity arranged by the college, that she realized the truth. He wasn't from her batch. He was a senior. One of the organizing heads, in fact. He was guiding the juniors, giving safety instructions, helping everyone through the hike. And he noticed her again. She wasn't loud or overly friendly, but she had this quiet energy, the kind that made people pay attention without realizing it. He helped her climb when her foot slipped. Asked her if she was okay more times than she expected. Always polite, never overstepping. She wasn't sure if he remembered her from the orientation day, but she remembered everything. And every time he smiled at her, even casually, she felt it linger longer. Time passed. They crossed paths occasionally, between college corridors, in group activities, or during events where seniors interacted with juniors. There was always a subtle pull between them. Unspoken, undefined. Then came the party. It was a casual gathering, hostile students, loud music, snacks passed around, a night where rules faded under fairy lights. She didn't even plan to stay long. But he was there. And for once, they talked. Really talked. Laughed. Teased. Stood closer than they should have. He had been drinking, and by the time the music faded and most students had wandered out, the two of them ended up alone in a quiet room. Neither of them planned for what happened next. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't dreamy. It was fast, confusing, charged with adrenaline and blurred judgment. When she woke up the next morning, the room was quiet, his arm around her. And for the first time, she felt nothing but fear. She left before he woke up. No note. No explanation. Just the heaviness of guilt in her chest. After that day, she avoided him. Wouldn't meet his eyes. Didn't respond to his attempts to speak. He finally caught her one afternoon in a quiet corner of campus. He looked just as confused as she felt. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I was drunk. I don't remember much, but I know it wasn't right. If you need anything, I'll take responsibility." She shook her head. "I'm not a responsibility. I'm not broken or scared. I'm fine. It just happened." He didn't argue. But something in his eyes changed after that. He began watching her more closely, not out of guilt, but something softer, something real. She wasn't clinging to him. She didn't act like a victim. And maybe that's what drew him in more. Her strength. Her silence. Her ability to move on. But then, one day, she vanished. No messages. No warnings. Her roommates said she was on medical leave. Others said she was sick. The whispers, though, told different story. He tried to find her. Asked around. Messaged her. Nothing. As his final year closed in, projects, internships, job interviews, life pulled him forward. He tried to forget. Tried to convince himself it was a strange chapter, a mistake neither of them could change. But miles away, in a small apartment, she sat curled up with a hand on her belly, wondering how life had spiraled so fast. Her parents knew. She told them it was her decision, her child, from her love, not ashamed to be buried. She never returned to campus again. Completed her semester online. Deleted photos. Blocked numbers. Life had shifted. And so, they moved forward, separately. He walked into the world, chasing ambitions. She stayed behind, raising a quiet storm in her heart. But fate? Fate wasn't done with them yet. Part 2, The Reunion and Real Love. 5 years passed like a silent breeze. Life had changed. The girl, no longer the unsure junior, had matured into a strong, independent woman. Her days were filled with work, motherhood, and quiet moments of reflection. She had raised her son with patience and love, keeping their life peaceful and steady. Her little boy, now almost 5, was the center of her world, his laughter, his questions, and the way he sometimes reminded her of someone she'd tried so hard to forget. The past wasn't gone. It just slept in the corners of her mind. The boy from college, the one night, the apology, the sudden disappearance, she'd buried it all deep down. Until one day, fate woke it all up. It was a regular afternoon in the city. She had taken her son out for ice cream. The sun was soft, the traffic loud, and she was laughing at something silly her boy had said, when she stopped mid-step. There he was. Across the road. Standing tall, dressed in a crisp shirt, a bag over his shoulder. His face hadn't changed much. A little older, maybe. More refined. But his eyes, the moment they met hers, still held the same warmth, the same pause. He froze. She did too. Time didn't move. And then, slowly, he crossed the street. "Hey." His voice was unsure. Almost like a whisper. "It's really you?" She smiled faintly. "Yeah. It's me." They stood in silence for a few seconds, until a small voice tugged at her hand. "Mama, ice cream," the boy said, looking up at her. His eyes then shifted to the man beside her. The man who stared back, unable to blink. There was something undeniable in the child's eyes. The curve of his jaw, the arch of his brows. Familiar. Hauntingly familiar. The man looked at her again. "Is he?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. He crouched down gently, unsure, nervous, but drawn in. "Hi, buddy," he said softly. "What's your name?" "Vihan," the boy replied. "My name's Vihan." The man's eyes glistened. And then everything unraveled. Over coffee, she told him the truth. That she had left because she didn't want pity. That she had raised Vihan without expecting anything. That her life had moved on, but some part of her had always wondered, what if? He listened quietly. His hands clenched, his jaw tight with guilt. "I didn't know," he said finally. "If I had known, I would have come. I would have been there." "I know," she replied. "But I also knew you had your life to live. I didn't want to stop you." But he shook his head. "You were never a stop. You were a beginning I didn't realize I needed." And that changed everything. He started visiting more. Spending time with Vihan. Not just as a visitor, but as a father. From Sunday park trips to school events, bedtime stories to ice cream promises, he became a presence in their life. At first, she was hesitant. She had built her world alone. Letting someone in, even him, he didn't push. He simply stayed. And slowly, the walls she'd built began to fall. They started spending more time together. Talking. Laughing. Remembering college days. Sharing late-night phone calls. Rediscovering each other. There was no rush. No declarations. Just small, quiet moments, holding hands at the supermarket, brushing fingers while reaching for the same cup, watching Vihan sleep between them on the couch. Love didn't come back like a storm. It returned like a slow sunrise. One evening, while watching Vihan draw stick figures of their family, himself, his mama, and his new best friend, he looked at her and smiled. "I don't want to just be a visitor in your life," he said. "I want to be home." She looked at him, eyes soft, heart full. "You already are." Months later, in a small, quiet ceremony with close friends and family, they got married. Not out of obligation. Not because of a mistake. But because love had found its way again, stronger, braver, and real. And their little boy danced between them, laughing, not knowing that he had brought two people back together. That he was the reason two lost hearts found home. It wasn't a perfect story. But it was theirs.